All right. Welcome everyone to today's 4-in-1's webinar. Today we're focusing on automation and why it's an essential element of your digital strategy. Our goal is by the end of today's session that you'll walk away with concrete next steps to both implement automation into your digital strategy and take your current one to the next level. And a short introduction of where we are coming from today. We are Form1, a US-based digital consultancy working exclusively with mission-driven organizations to amplify their impact through transformational digital solutions. Our services include web design and development, branding and campaign development, business intelligence and data analytics, and overall digital strategy. We've partnered with over 1,000 organizations and government agencies on over 2,500 projects for over 25 years. And here's a good overview of some of the nonprofits, associations, foundations, think tanks, cultural institutions, and government agencies that we work with to understand their challenges and implement effective solutions that have an impact. Many of our clients we've worked with for over 10 years, so developing a deep partnership with those we work with is very much a part of how we work. If you'd like to learn more about Form1 and some of the work we do for the organizations you see on the screen, you're welcome to check us out at form1.com. And with that, I will get started with introductions. To change it up a bit, we're going to introduce one another. So let me start by introducing my colleague, Christina Crawley. Tina is Form1's managing director of marketing, and she is a true global marketing expert who leads our team in all Form1's marketing strategy and outreach activities. She has over 15 years experience working in marketing and communications with nonprofits and government agencies in the US, Canada, and Europe. Tina has been with Form1 for over 7 years. She is the best boss to work for, and her go-to fun fact is that she can't whistle.
Thanks, Cass. And it's true. I try my best, but I'm no good at whistling. Great to have everybody here. Short hair in the picture, long hair. That's what happens over the last couple of years. But like to introduce Cass. Cass is Form1's senior marketing specialist. So she keeps our corporate marketing wheels in motion with the help of very well-oiled automation strategies. So she's really making sure that our audience are able to glean valuable insights on what's most important when it comes to mission-driven digital strategy. And Cass has been with Form1 for just over 6 years, so almost as long as me. And so we've worked very closely together. She's worked with some of our clients, such as the Bar Foundation and USAID, on their marketing strategies. An absolute pleasure to work with. And so right back at you there, Cass. And fun fact about Cass is that she moonlights as a doula. So pretty impressive lady. All right, so that's us. We'd love to hear about you, Cass.
Yeah, so in the chat, this is everyone's first test in the chat to let us know who you are, what organization you're with, and maybe a fun fact about yourself. So while you're doing that, I'll pass it back over to Tina and she'll start on today's agenda.
Great. All right, so again, thanks so much everyone for joining today, and also just making the time amidst your busy work days to fit us in. We know just as much as you that life is busy, work is busy. It's hard to make the extra time. So really, really grateful for the time that you're taking to be with us today. And we really hope that what we're going to be covering is going to move you towards helping you reach your goals. So thanks again. So pretty simple plan in the sense that we're going to start with the why automation, move on to the what, talk about some practical examples and ideas, and then we'll take a few minutes at the end to go over the how in terms of either where you are now or where you'd like to be going. So when it comes to digital strategy and communications, the landscape is ever changing. And automation is, in fact, a really important tool to keep up with these changes, which is really why we want to delve into it today. And let me see, I can see we've got a few people. Oh, we've got a doula fan out there. Sandine's a fan of yours, Cass, so she might be in touch. We've got Cass. And anybody else, if you want to mention where you're coming from, what organization you work with, or we'd love to hear from you. And we'll also continue on the lines of hearing a little bit from you and do a first poll just to kind of see where you are in terms of automation. So I'll kind of go through with the options that you're seeing here on the screen, and you might find yourself in trying to pick the one that matches to you the most as possible. So automation, you wish you had it, you don't have it at all. Maybe it's something you've considered, you have moved ahead with it, or your budget hasn't allowed for it. You wish you had more of it. So maybe you're using one element of automation or a couple, but wish you had it in other areas. You have it, but it's a lot of work. It's pretty heavy. So you've got it set up in different places. It's helpful, but it's heavy to maintain. Similarly, but maybe on the other spectrum, that you do have it, but you feel like, oh gosh, there's more that we could be doing with it. That you've got the tools out there. Maybe there's more things that you could be doing to optimize it or make use of the automation tools that you have. And then last, that it's been a lifesaver and you can't live without it. So the idea that overall you feel pretty good with automation, you're on board. Probably there's always ways to improve. So it's not like life is perfect and you've got it all set up, but that's kind of where you are. So I'll give another 10 seconds or so, then we can end the poll and kind of see where we are. All right. Okay, so we actually have a fair amount of people who aren't using automation at all. So that's great to have you here today, so we can talk about some different examples of where it might make sense for you. And then the kind of a mix between using a little bit, you have it, but it's a little bit difficult to use, or you have it, that you could be doing more. Sometimes it's a matter of time and energy and resources to do more. That the tool have a lot of potential. And so I would say there that the fact that there's a good mix here is really the reality of where all organizations are when it comes to automation. It really varies from one organization to the next, what's going to be most important to you versus what's important to others. Automation to us is really, really important, but it's just the key thing is to know how it's going to help you with your challenges. So thanks for sharing that. It's helpful for me. I also hope it's helpful for you just to see that it can really vary across the board. And Bebe, thanks for saying hello from New Orleans. Great to have you. And Jason from Tallahassee. Awesome. Cool. All right. Always love to see who's in the crowd. All right, cool. So with that, let's the idea of where we are, let's take a little bit of a step back in terms of I'm just going to get this poll out of my way. In terms of the challenges that most mission-driven organizations are facing. Okay, so step back from automation for a moment. At Forum One, we talk with a lot of clients in both the NGO, associations, nonprofits, foundations, and also the government space as well. And we work with, both at the local, state, and federal level. And sometimes these are kind of the biggest challenges that we're hearing, and I'm sure that a lot of these may ring true for you. Feel free to comment and say, yes, the first one for sure, or you might have some other ones. Feel free to share those as well. But these are kind of the big challenges that we see organizations struggling with. So managing resources is usually the first one. We know that most people don't have a lot of extra time on their hands, so trying to figure out the size of your team, the size of your budget, how you can make the most of it is a big challenge. In terms of reaching goals, we know that for a lot of organizations, you may not be seeing the organic content and outreach results that, based on all the work that you're putting out there that you used to see. And it's much harder to reach those goals. Your key performance indicators, your KPIs, are a little bit harder to get to than they used to be. And so that's a big challenge. And then finally, that things are always changing. A good example is video. We've heard over the last couple of years, you got to use video. You got to make sure that people are seeing you. You're having movement in your social. You've got video on your various platforms. So organizations have figured out how to build that into their resources, how to invest in landscape videos, and then lo and behold, there comes Instagram stories, Facebook stories, TikTok. You've got all of a sudden the vertical video landscape that you've got to adjust for. So it just seems like a little thing, but it's like, oh gosh, okay, now we got to switch the way we're doing videos. There's always something changing. Sometimes it feels like there's hurdle after hurdle. So we know that there's things that are changing all the time, and so it can be a challenge. So that's, again, this is why we want to talk about automation, because when it comes to your biggest challenges, there really are opportunities to get away from a lot of manual tasks and processes that can be managed and executed by your digital ecosystem and the tools that you have at your disposal. So automation is not new. But as we mentioned in the event description, it can sometimes feel like a catch-22, that it can help you save time, help you reach your goals, but it does require that initial time to set things up, and it requires that time to optimize it over time. So that's a little bit of the elephant in the room, but I will say that there is a lot of data out there that proves that this may be, a priority that really rises to the top in terms of an initiative that really warrants both the initial investment and investment over time that will give you a very quick and decent ROI, a return on investment. So let's take a look at one of those data points to start. Salesforce, as you know, a CRM product company, they collected data in the fall of 2020, so about six months into the pandemic, when a lot of organizations are struggling with questions around digital transformation. And so 73% of tech leaders found that thanks to automation success, their employees were saving between 10 and 20% of their time that they were otherwise, using on doing manual tasks, which is big. You can imagine all those manual tasks that you would love to push off your plate so that you could focus on other things really goes a long way. So whether that's getting new contacts into your database or sending a welcome email or replying to a single request, automation can really support a lot of these tasks so that your audience can get what they need and get it quickly, and that you're also able to keep moving forward yourself. So no matter how small or large your organization or your team is, we understand the small and mighty teams. We're right there with you. So no matter the time, the people power, the budgets, or the tool sets that you have, these common challenges require more efficient, streamlined processes to succeed in both the short term and the long term. I mentioned digital transformation. I sometimes hesitate to bring it up because it's a bit of a trigger for some people when it comes to the pandemic. But the truth is that the way that people engage with digital tools and platforms and the way they expect to engage with them is continuing to evolve. And so automation becomes essential to assuring both that you are running smoothly and that your audience's experiences are too. And the key part here is that automation supports the effective functioning of your entire digital ecosystem. At Hormone, we talk a lot about digital ecosystems. What's in your tool set? How are things working together? How are things integrated? So one tool and one automation tool can go a long way to helping you streamline your processes and reach your goals. But then if you can integrate those together, that's an even bigger success. So that's something to really keep in mind too, especially if you're in the early of considering how you might integrate automation into your strategy or expand automation. Integration is key. What other tools are you using already? Any tool that you're going to bring into the mix, how can you make sure that it's going to speak with the other tools that you have? Because that's key in making sure that we're not duplicating efforts and really making use of the value of automation. Otherwise, you're still finding yourself having to do a lot of manual things. So that's a big thing for me, a big takeaway even just today. Automation and integration are a huge part of your strategy. I do want to take a second, we're going to jump into specific tools and examples, but I want to stop for just a second to say, and maybe this is obvious, but you can't and shouldn't automate everything you're doing. We as humans versus robots and AI, we're able to consciously manage and set up any automation so that it's helpful to us. It makes sense to us. It's personalized enough for what we need and what our audiences need. But it's not meant to replace all that we do in order to save time or tasks. So two big areas to keep in mind as we go through these. The first one being customer service. So automation is not meant to replace a deeper relationship with your clients. So think about all those times you've called your cable provider and you just kind of ended up going through, click 1, click 2, click 3 for this. And you just really want to talk to somebody. You always want to make sure that you're able to do that. So automation can take care of the easy questions so that you can then spend the time on those more complex questions that people have and build those relationships with your audiences. And then, talking about complexities, complex processes. So automation can support moving items forward in a process, but it shouldn't remove or replace a deeper reflection or discussions that really need to happen collectively. Again, automation is there so that you can have those deeper reflections, those deeper conversations, and take time for decision making. That's always a really big part of all that we're doing, especially in the mission-driven space of what's going to create the biggest impact. And we want to make sure that you have more time to spend time on those kinds of things. So that's where you're not going to be automating things, and just keep that in mind as we go forward. Okie dokes. Bear with me here. All right, so tools. So let's talk practicalities. What makes sense for you in the mission-driven space? These are, I'm flying through too many slides at once. These are sort of the big buckets when it comes to automation. Again, like the fact that you want to show integrations across these is really important, but these are some of the things that you may recognize as using automation already, or areas that you suspect would be valuable for you to integrate automation. And so first I'll start with the biggest one, which for us is sort of the most valuable one, a CRM. So either a contact, constituent, customer relationship management tool. And there's a lot of benefits there. So I'm certainly curious. You're welcome to put in what sort of CRM tool you use already, in case you see anybody else who's using the same as you. I've always noticed that in my experience, CRMs really vary across organizations. So the way that I use our CRM is very different than how one client may use theirs another. I'm always learning different ways that people do stuff. So there's examples like Salesforce, HubSpot, EveryAction, Charity Engine, Apricot. I'm sure you can think of other ones as well. If you have other ones, you can throw those in the chat as well. But on the screen here, you might be familiar with some of those CRM benefits. It's allowing you to move away from spreadsheets, better organize your data, improve sales performance, have a higher audience retention, and so on. And then you can add more things to that list thanks to CRM automation. So, again, like the main goals of using any software are to get better organized and to make complex tasks easier to accomplish, right? So automation makes both of these possible when it comes to handling your customer or contact or constituent relationships. So however you use the C in CRM for that as well. Oops, I'm clicking around on a couple of screens here, so bear with me. All right, so this is an example, and I think we've got someone here from the Education Fund today, so it's great to see. But the Education Fund is a client of Form One's, and it's and this is based on a great case study that we have on our website that you're welcome to check out. But it's the Education Fund is a partnership between the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, you might recognize that acronym, and the United Healthcare Workers West, UHW, based out in California. And they provide education, training, and career services to union members to help advance medical professional careers. And so this is a fund that's almost 20 years old, was established in 2004. It includes 16 healthcare employers, over 100,000 healthcare workers eligible to take part. And at a certain point, the fund was realizing that maybe only 10% of those eligible were actually making use of this opportunity. So they needed a comprehensive solution that would help them scale up and reach and respond to the needs of prospective learners. So in addition to implementing a strategic roadmap and digital strategy, being able to modernize and customize their CRM to better track success and communications was huge. So, and maybe the person, I think is it Natalia, who's in the room as well, could speak to processes that took days to accomplish could now be done much quicker. Where then, based on the different strategies they were using to get more people, increase the number of learners out there, you could then make the connections with the better CRM connections of how employees were taking the training and then ending up with significant wage increases. And this was a huge thing for them to, again, we want to show the impact of our work and how it's creating change. More people were getting the education that they needed, but also Education Fund was able to successfully renew bargaining agreements with unions thanks to their ability to do this. So really, really impactful things that automation is able to really support. So you can bring data together. You're not having to pull things from different sections and areas and different tools, not having to manually put in data in different areas, that things are better connected. So that was a great example of CRM being used there. And then also there's invoices, welcome emails, drip campaigns. Drip campaigns would be email like sequences that people get. And they might be running through your CRM, or they're connected to a marketing automation platform. And that's the next, big bucket that we'll talk through. But I would say that if you do have a CRM in place now, chances are good that it does a lot of some of these automation functionalities already. So you may not be making use of them, but you may be paying for this functionality already and not having it set up. So that's something to consider. If you're paying for it, use it if you can, and see what's possible with what you have. But of course, if you don't like your CRM, we can talk about that separately. We can talk about it through a lens of automation and integration as well. But this is a key automation tool opportunity for organizations to streamline some of those manual processes. So from that, we'll switch from CRM to marketing automation. I'll let Cass take over this as our senior marketing specialist. She is in the weeds of this every day, so she can speak really, really clearly to it.
Thanks, Tina. And so as Tina mentioned, one of the benefits of CRM automation is increased productivity. And that is also a benefit of marketing automation. And really, it's a benefit of all the types of automation that we're going to be talking about today. So marketing automation oftentimes works hand in hand with your CRM and is, in a nutshell, how you manage your marketing outreach. When it comes to marketing outreach and your CRM, how are your audiences engaging with your content? What happens when they fill out forms on your website? Those are some questions to ask yourself. And through marketing in your CRM automation, you're able to segment your audiences into lists and tag and grade and score each of them. Each of your prospects' actions are added data points for your marketing strategy, and marketing automation then puts data to work by streamlining your workflows, which leads us to another part of marketing automation, which is email marketing. And these types of automation then allow the email machine to spin and leads to more personalized content. And as we all know and have experienced a lot these days, our inboxes are beyond full. So, how is your organization's email catching the attention of your audiences? And through email marketing automation, your emails can be providing that personalized content based on the information that your audiences are most interested in, and therefore increasing your chances of them opening and clicking through in your emails and taking the action that you're hoping for them to take. So when it comes to email marketing automation, some examples include your welcome email, re-engagement emails, and even event announcements. We typically see the welcome sequence being the most common automated email marketing technique. So when someone first fills out a contact form, are they getting a response from you via an automated email right away? That timeliness is important because your customer has performed an action showing their interest, and you want to keep their attention and engage as timely as possible. And the next most common strategy are those lead nurturing emails. So as customers engage with your content and emails, again, I mentioned they're being tagged, graded, and scored through your automation tools. And then they can be funneled through the appropriate email drip campaigns, ensuring that you're providing them the valuable content that is most relevant to their interests and needs. And here are a couple statistics that illustrate the value of marketing automation. According to Entrepreneur, automating follow-up emails and outreach campaigns can improve response rate by 250%. And the other stat shows that by using automated emails, organizations can receive twice the number of leads and up to 58% more conversions than simply sending out email blasts. The objective with your email marketing automation is to move your audiences through that conversion funnel in a more timely way while providing them that valuable content. One of the most important things we've learned when it comes to email marketing is that it is a mind shift. Instead of just thinking about your monthly newsletter content, you want to be thinking about what do your audiences want and need now. And through automation, you're able to collect that data to take the guesswork out of it and ultimately streamline your workflows. And here's one example for you. The Pearson Institute for International Economics is an independent nonprofit, nonpartisan research organization dedicated to strengthening prosperity and human welfare in the global economy through expert analysis and practical policy solutions. And we worked with them to define an integrated omni-channel content strategy to reach their goals, spanning website, email, and social platforms. And that included an email strategy to maximize their investments in Salesforce and Pardot, and then enhance their audience segmentation. We use automation to keep their email list engaged. So if you subscribe and open emails for several months and then stop, their system automatically detects when you haven't opened an email for 8 weeks, and will send you a series of emails designed to get you back engaged with the organization. So it's not a re-engaged email going to a list. It's personal to the person's behavior. So as soon as they send the signal, a series of automated actions then happen. This type of automation is part of their email marketing and is helping raise awareness of their nonpartisan economic policy and grow their influence among a wider audience beyond Washington, D.C. And we could talk about email and marketing automation all day long, but we're going to switch gears a little bit because we want to make sure we're touching on all of the big automation tools for you today. And it's no surprise to anyone that social media is more important now than ever. It's not just something you need to do anymore, but it's something you have to do. These days, some people may never even go to your website. Instead, they may only interact with your brand on social media. So social media automation is the process of using automated tools to improve your social media presence through content creation and scheduling social media posts in advance. Automation tools can help reduce the amount of time spent gathering posts last minute, so then you can spend more time growing your account and engaging with your audiences. And as with every automation we're discussing, again, the biggest benefit of social media automation is that it's going to save you time and help you work more efficiently. Some of the ways you can use automation in your social media strategy include being more consistent with scheduling and posting to your social media channels. Using tools like HubSpot, Hootsuite, or Sprout Social help you to be able to plan ahead, schedule your posts in bulk, and engage with your audiences all in one place, which also helps you to respond faster, being in one dashboard. Another benefit of using a social media tool for automation is that your analytics is also in one place. Many tools provide metrics by network, include paid analytics, and even competitor comparisons in one dashboard. Using your social media reports, you can also see which of your social posts perform best with your audiences, and then you can use that data to further create more content. And then social listening is another type of social media automation, and that's the process of monitoring what people are saying about your brand or industry online. With automation, you can see all brand mentions in one place, as well as follow certain keywords, topics, or hashtags. This can also help you create ideas for your social content and guide your social media strategy. So what are people talking about? You can use that to build out even more engaging content. For Facebook specifically, if your organization's already using it, you can utilize Facebook Messenger chatbot to improve your customer engagement and journey, providing better support by getting their general questions answered quickly or escalating more important questions to a human faster. And Tina talked about that a little bit, when not to use automation. And she's going to talk a little bit more about chatbots here in a few minutes. So, and finally, social media automation can help streamline your paid social media as well. One way you can automate your paid ads is by creating saved audiences and also using those recommended automatic placements on each channel. Another, in regards to paid ads, you can utilize dynamic creative ads on Facebook. We've used dynamic creative for multiple clients, and how it works is rather than building whole ads out, you give the platform the ads in pieces. For example, the button can be learn more or sign up, and then the platform automatically builds all the possible combinations of images, titles, post copy, buttons, etc. It's a fast, easy, and really cost-effective way to match the right ads with the right audiences at scale. And we have an example. One of the clients we use dynamic creative with is the Health Resources and Services Administration. So HRSA is an agency of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and their mission is to improve health outcomes and achieve health equity through access to quality services, a skilled health workforce, and innovative high-value programs. Our team works with HRSA to devise, develop, and support implementation of a comprehensive organic and paid social media strategy to increase their traffic to their digital properties, raise general awareness of the agency and its work, and amplify the organization's voice and influence in relevant online conversations. We are heavily involved in creating and editing campaign materials and collateral, including infographics and social media posts. And we manage day-to-day social transactions, needs, and analytics, and adjust our tactics based on those real-time results. So using dynamic creative, we run 2 campaigns with HRSA using it. And before running the campaign, we projected results. And in both cases, we've exceeded projections and their historical benchmarks. Also, social platforms tend to charge less for ads that people are interested in. So in HRSA's case, they were targeting healthcare employees, including doctors, who are usually a pretty expensive group to reach with advertising. But with dynamic creative, the average cost to reach a healthcare provider was just 2.5 cents. So it's pretty good. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Tina to talk about conversational marketing.
Great, thanks, Cass. So this is the last one where we're going to really dig into. We could dig into a lot of different things, but this is one that we're seeing used a lot more. Especially, I can see that some of the, you want to reduce suffering, increase core work. This is a big one where it can help you save some time and make some connections. So conversational marketing automation. So this is how you make use of chat bots. So there's chat bots, that's the tool, conversational marketing being the approach that you're using them with. And so Cass mentioned like Facebook Messenger. You can have a chat bot set up through there. If your audience is on Facebook, that makes sense. Or maybe it's on other digital platforms, namely your website. So conversational marketing is something that we're seeing more and more as a normal element of digital platforms. You probably yourself are using them more and more to get quick questions answered when you're on a site instead of having to dig through it. It's just really helpful on getting information. And so when you think of time savings, you can automate your FAQs, you can manage event registration, you can accept donations, you can really push campaigns. So in terms of reaching your engagement goals, you might not be, pushing revenue through your conversational marketing, but it's a really effective way to increase conversions and website engagement. So being helpful to your visitors and sometimes even being delightful. There's a great example. National Geographic a couple of years ago did an exhibit and campaign around Albert Einstein. And so for that month, they used the Facebook Messenger bot to engage with their Facebook users. And the bot was Albert Einstein himself. And so you could engage with him and you could ask him questions, and he was kind of, ready for most things. You could try to see if you could stump him. And it was just a really great way. It wasn't necessarily he could give information about the exposition and you could learn about it some more, but it was also just a fun way to engage with the Nat Geo brand and the campaign itself. So there's lots of different ways where it also is delightful in addition to helping you save time and making those conversions still. So I'll give actually another example as well. This is from a great example of a nonprofit educational membership organization. So this is the Council for the Advancement and Support of Education. They also go by CASE, which you can sort of see, but it's a little blurry there on the screen. And they implemented conversational marketing automation in 2020 when all their events went virtual, but they have a huge membership and those membership needs were heightened. And so in their case, they went that sort of extra mile in conversational marketing. They created a little character goes with their chat. I'll explain. So it's a little bit like the Albert Einstein idea. That's a little bit fun. But it was a really important way for them to keep up with the amount of stuff that was coming their way so that they could engage and respond to their members correctly and not be spending too much time on doing one-off replies. Oops, my notes are stuck. Give me 1 second. All right. So this is the idea. This is they had their conversational marketing character. So their chatbot was Casey. Their founder is Australian, so they picked a wombat because that was where kind of gave some connection to their founder. Wombat is an animal that's digging for things. So it was this nice way of kind of breathing life into their site, but also it was helping their members and just general audience navigate the site, to help their membership team who was just overwhelmed with a lot of stuff that was coming through. And this was this nice fun way. So this is a little bit of like Casey's profile, but really the big point was to make sure that they had access to the information so they could get through requests and outreach much faster. So what they did, they used their own usability studies. They knew what their FAQs were. They knew what the challenges were of navigating the site. And so they focused on key areas like membership. So they wanted to make sure that they could answer any membership questions quickly and easily. The conferences I mentioned, they had all gone virtual. So were things getting, were events getting rescheduled, or how are they, when they switched from in-person to virtual, how are they dealing with reimbursements and things like that? So they were able to answer a lot of these questions through the chatbot. And then it's also an organization, being a global membership organization, that has a lot of resources. And in Case will say themselves that they recognize that it can be sometimes hard to find information on the site. And so they could address those directly in the conversational marketing bot as well. They saw a huge amount of engagement immediately with the chat bot. They were able to quickly tweak it if they needed to add more things, and then also link it to some other campaigns as well. So this was a really great way of them being able to both save time, but then also reach their goals as well. So that's another interesting one that you might want to consider for automation. And although I won't go into them in huge detail, Cass touched upon them a little bit. Even just a few years ago, digital advertising felt pretty daunting. You're trying to figure out how to deal with keyword bidding, content optimization. Were you spending either your ad grant money correctly or your Google AdWords money correctly? Were you hitting the right audiences? And a lot of this stuff is a lot more automated now to make it much easier for you. So as organic content and outreach becomes more challenging, we know that even if you have a lot of followers on social, a lot of them aren't necessarily seeing your posts. Advertising strategies are becoming much more important. The automation tools that exist across Google Ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, they often actually look very similar, so that you can recognize the process of how to get through it. They're just a lot more consistent, that you can feel much more confident with the money that you are spending is being spent towards going to the right audiences and using the right keywords and optimizing as needed. So there's a lot of great things there that, as you think like, oh, the landscape is changing yet again, and I need to invest more on the advertising side, that there's a lot of automation support there that helps that as well. And I won't get into transaction automation, as that might be specific to each organization, but I would only say that what's important there is to make sure that it's integrated with your other systems in your digital ecosystem. So how to make sure that any sort of transactions that come through are being connected to your CRM, so that information is there, that there's a trigger for your marketing automation so that people end up on the right email threads, and all that kind of stuff. So you just want to make sure that integration is working well. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic back over to Cass to work on this sort of next step idea. Oh, but I did have this little thing again. And I already showed this one, but I just wanted to show it again. And it was like, just remember again, you're not trying to automate everything, right? So customer service, the idea of relationship building, connecting with people, that you want to make sure that you're still taking the time and maybe now have the time for it. And then that decision-making, discussion, complex processes, you're not going to necessarily automate all of that too. So I wanted to bring that back up again. I realized that just so we don't forget, so I don't forget too. I forgot that it was here. So with that, Cass, I'll let you wrap us up.
Yeah. Thanks, Tita. And it's important to reiterate when not to use automation. So we've covered the why when we talked about why automation is so important. And we talked about the what when we shared all the automation tools you could be using, or some of the tools you could be using. And then that leads us to the how. What does all this mean for you in your organization, and where do you begin? So at the beginning of the webinar, we did the poll. We asked you all where you were in your automation journey, and over half of you answered that you wish you had it or you wish you had more of it. So using your answer to the poll earlier, here are some next steps based on where your organization is with automation. If you are decently automated already, or even if you have some and want to be doing more, it's important to always assess where you are right now with it and review your progress overall to figure out what is working and where there are areas to improve. If things are going great, maybe it's time to review your integration, see if there's been any new updates. Are there other places you could be integrating? And then, are there other ways that you could be even automating your processes better? If you're exploring more ways to automate, optimize what you're already doing and shift in ways that need improvement. And then, as always, circle back and reassess. If you aren't automating things yet, we recommend you start small. Identify your pain points, review your current tools, take a look at your goals, and then begin by prioritizing where automation could be the most helpful. Keeping in mind your audiences and what your KPIs are, you'll likely start with your existing CRM to see what's possible there. Or if you are more communications focused in your role, your email may be top of mind. Social media automation is also another place you could start small, but have a big impact. And at the end of the day, it comes down to your goals, your KPIs, and finding ways that automation can help you achieve them more efficiently and effectively. So with that, we're going to open it up for questions. You can put them in the Q&A box so that we can answer them in the order they're asked. I think I might have saw a few in the chat. So we will be checking there.
Yeah, and actually, maybe I'll even start directly with Sandine or Sandine. Maybe I hope I'm saying that remotely correctly. About you're asking about, you'd love to see more about the business case for digital and data strategy. And it's a great question. I think that the big thing there is that we know that even with our teams, you take on a lot of stuff yourself that you realize, wow, my team just spent, 30 hours this week pulling data to get this report together. How many hours of, how much is their time worth and how much is this tool worth? And could we get all this done? You really have to, we do that with every tool that we look at, what the investment worth the time versus the time that you're having to do this, a lot of the manual stuff. So if how much time is your organization spending on answering incoming emails of questions that that the answers are pretty simple to? Pulling data, pulling reports from various platforms, how many hours, the example from Natalia's organization with the Education Fund, having to pull data from various places, how much time that takes, what an automation tool could bring that together in a good way is really important. And how do you move, you're asking, how much do you move beyond your tool into data governance issues? Yeah, and that's a great question as well. And I think that's where a lot of whenever you're going to be thinking about and this is the larger question of your digital ecosystem and how that's being managed, who are the right people to be in the room to decide which tools make the best sense for you. If ever you're going to be implementing or bringing on anything new or switching something out, how does that affect the other departments? Who is in charge of what, who has access to what? It really does, of course, vary. And I think that's the most that you can come to the table with the investment and energy and resources from your department, and then start to see where that hits across other departments is a huge one as well. And we have a lot of people at Form One who are experts in data governance as well, who could really speak to how where it makes sense, where IT is working with marketing, who's working with communications, who's working with operations, who's working with finance, who has access to what, who is in charge of what, who owns what, and how that makes sense. And as you mentioned, you're coming from the Department of the Interior. You've got additional layers of security, stewardship, public money. It's thorny. So yeah, it's a great conversation. We love to chat with. I'm sure you probably have been in touch with our colleague Mike on the government team as well. I'm happy to really talk through that because it's complex. None of this is simple. and it requires, taking that time to have those deeper discussions so that you can get on the right path forward. So definitely happy to chat further about that. But always having to make the case for the time and resources you're spending on things, and how it's going to help you in the long run.
Awesome. Sending great questions. And anyone else, if you have other questions, there was a question just about social media automation tools, recommendations, and social listening tools. And we talked about a few of them earlier, the big one, HubSpot, Hootsuite, Sprout Social. A lot of them actually do social listening as well. And then there's Meltwater and Mention and CoSchedule are some of the other ones we've seen people use. So those are all great. I always like to talk about Canva. Canva is not, I would say, a social media automation tool, but it is a efficient tool when it comes to your design and even scheduling some posts too, depending on what your budgets look like. Canva is a great tool as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tina, there was a question about chatbot tools and cost-effective chatbot tools.
Right. And no, that's a good one. There's the chatbot tools and conversational marketing really vary across the board. There's a number of free tools that you can use. The Facebook Messenger one that we mentioned is a free tool. If your audiences are on Facebook, that's not necessarily the case for everyone. That's a great place to start. There are a number of tools we've often been recommending tools such as Drift. FlowXO is the one that our friends at Case have used. That's fairly inexpensive and really, really pretty flexible and customizable. Those are great options as well. And they can vary from being free to being, pretty expensive depending on what you're looking for in terms of the return on the automation. Do you want really deep AI playbooks that can really work through somebody typing in a deep message of a complicated question and the chatbot being able to work through that based on different cues? Do you want to build out playbooks where people pick exactly as Case had done it, like pick some, it's like a question and answer type thing, pick these 3 answers, we'll give you an answer based on that. You can build out playbooks, as they're called, that way as well. There's lots of different ones. You could have live chat. You might just want to do chatbots that are just open during office hours. Again, that's also depends, that's a resource thing as well. But those are some good ones. The one thing that I would say for all of those is that you would always want to make sure that you gave the option for people to speak with somebody or be connected with somebody. So even if you're doing, email automation, you might be doing drip campaigns, make sure people can reply to the email and ask you a question directly. So it's not a no reply email that they're getting those drips from. Or if they connect with your conversational marketing, that you could also chat with somebody directly, giving them an email address or give them a phone number or something like that. So there's a lot of options there as well. Hope that's helpful.
Of course it is. We still have a little over 10 minutes. There was another question. Otherwise we'll wrap up. We're going to be cognizant of your time, but it was about automation and syncing across platforms. So what's your advice for keeping things working?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And that's just such a big one. I think no matter what you're going to do when it comes to automation, is making sure that you're able to sync information across the platform. So you may be able to do some great marketing automation within you may be using HubSpot or Pardot or something like that to send emails and get great engagement there. But if none of that information is going into your CRM, then that's not super helpful, because then you're having to either manually put them over, or you can have the problem of messy data where something's going into one system differently than it's sitting in another, right? Different email addresses, different names, titles, organizations. So I think as much as possible, making sure that all of the big automation buckets are connected is really important. And there's great ways to do that. Whoever your providers are, do you have a plugin so that I can integrate my Zoom webinar with my CRM, so I can see who's attending events and how they're engaging with us, would it make sense, like what kind of emails should I be sending them based on the things that interest them the most? That stuff's really big, and you don't want to be pulling that information only from one platform. You want to be pulling it in from different platforms. So a lot of the integrations exist out there. A lot of the most sort of typical tools that organizations are working have those integrations, and there's customizations that can be made as well. But unless you find yourself working with a very specific tool that doesn't have any integrations, that's something that you have to weigh then. How much that tool is helping you versus what it can do to be connected to another. So it's just a really big thing that no matter what you do going forward with automation, make sure that integration connection is there.
Awesome. Well, I don't think I've seen any other questions come through. Going once, going twice. All right. Well,
I
thank
think
you.
Cass, if you go to the next slide, I think we have our emails in there. If there's, oh no, I'm the one who's driving it. Never mind. Who sat on the last one? We get so
that was a
mixed
test
with doing. Yeah, but if you do have a particular question, really happy to connect you either with us or with someone else on the team. Especially if it's a government related question or nonprofit or association, different sectors of the team that could work with you. Ways that we can help you reduce the manual work so that you can breathe a little bit, but also really help you hit those goals. I think that we're all trying to give ourselves a little grace over the last couple of years. We're all working really, really hard. And anything that we can do to help you and that these tools can work for you, especially if you have them in your tool belt already, what can we do to make that work? So feel free to reach out. We'd love to chat further. And just thanks again for making that work. Do you have a white paper on USAID work? We don't have a white paper specifically, but happy to connect you with some write-ups that some of our teams have on that. So Sundine, if you want to reach out to either or both of us on email, then we can get you that information.
Okay. Well, awesome. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Okay, take care. Have a great rest of the week.